You're thicker than a Snicker. You get real sad when you see your own picture. Your belly's getting bigger, but Nate's podcast about to make you a winner. The show's called Baby Fat, and Nate'll fucking tell you that, yeah. The show's called Baby Fat, yeah, 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 yeah.
Jeez. Took me long enough, didn't it? In true big fat baby style, I teased episode 100 a month and a half ago. I'm sorry about that. It's my bad. But you've literally been hearing like it's my bad for me for quite some time. If I've been considerate, I haven't been considerate to the baby fat audience, quite frankly. If I had been consistent, pull my shirt down, fat gut. If I had been consistent about anything, it's about not being consistent here. And it really came to a head when I had to deliver episode 100. Here we are. Like, regardless, I'm late, a month and a half late, for various reasons, and we'll get into it. It's baby fat. Of course, you know, me and my bullshit. But we still made it. We're still here. We persevered. I mean, it's really just kind of true to my nature, how it ended up. And I got to be honest with you, I think I released the last episode, first video podcast episode, well documented, March 1st. And by March 6th, I was ready to do this episode. And for several reasons, I wasn't able to make my vision. Well, I wanted to have a guest that I wanted to FaceTime with, and I don't even want to spoil it yet because I'll get into the story. I'm at least going to tell my version of it, and maybe we'll do it later. There's still hope that we can connect later today, and we're both just two busy individuals, so I get it. Two busy, flaky individuals. I get my flakiness from him, 100%. That's 100%. We're both flakes. So it's been really hard to connect the past month and a half to get this story FaceTimed and recorded, because I wanted to, that could have been half of this episode. And so I wasn't sure how much time I needed to allot for that conversation. And I started blaming it on that. By my March 6th, is when I started to reach out to get it recorded, and still haven't got it done. But today I'm like, we can't wait any longer. I can't wait any longer. I'm procrastinated too long. I'd built an army of at least 50 religious listeners. 50 of you fat babies out there. Not to say that I didn't just get a milestone this morning that kind of put my ass into gear, that put the smile on my face. 5,000 streams. 5,000. Different times people have turned this on. That's a small town. We're building. And so, yeah, I know I got the army of 50. It's probably back down to the army of, 4 or 5. Maybe the loyal 27, wherever we started. But hopefully this upload hits your feed and you're happy. I've had really, quite frankly, not a lot of people reach out regarding where the episode has been. Most people are like, oh, I finally caught up, and I noticed that there's not a new download or something. That's been a couple of them. I guess they've kind of added up over the month and a half, but not as many as I don't know why I would anticipate it, because I'm a fucking narcissist, I guess. But I was underwhelmed there. And then that would feed into, why am I even doing it type fucking bullshit, you know? And it's not about that. Always has never been about that, of course. But, you know, it is what it is. I am what I am. We'll never change that. I'm trying to change. This is what it's all about, right? Talking out of both sides of my mouth, saying we'll never change. I'm trying to change. But it's just been a true fat baby fiasco this past month and a half of procrastinating. And I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And hopefully you jump back aboard. Hopefully I've come out of my sadness, the seasonal affective disorder that comes from my family and my mentals every year. March is usually when I get the most shit done, even documented on this podcast. This year, that was kind of pushed on until April. Here we are, April 10th, and I'm finally starting to feel a little normal. But not really, because I have other things going on that's affecting that. But I've come out of a little bit of a slump. I mean, I've been in feels like I'm going on a year slump now. I was doing really good when I started this podcast, and then it kind of petered, and then I fired it back up, and then I feel like this summer I was getting back on track, especially when I went on Nathan's podcast. I feel like, man, that was like an accomplishment. I felt great. And then I just let go. I have a horrible pattern of getting content when I'm so far from where I'm trying to go. I've told you guys before, all it takes is somebody being like, oh, you look like you've lost a little weight. And then I'm just like, all right, well, I don't ever have to lift again. I'm jacked. Obviously, he said that. She said that. I said he. I mean, pause. But it's like, yeah, I just get content so easily. And, yeah. So here we are. It's April 10th. Coming at you live to tape from an undisclosed location, the Go Rage. The Baby Fat Studios. Got a lot of work to do. The Go Rage is always a perfect illustration of where my mind is at. I don't know. It could be because it is my space in the house. It's my man cave. It's my gym. It's my office. It's my smoke spot. It's my gaming area. It's just, you can see it's sort of cluttered in here. We have a few weeks of recycling stacked up. I have a bunch of office decorations that I brought in from my old corporate office that need to go up somewhere. Here's a great example of me right now in this year. I bought this. And so I can't even remember what they call it. It's like a yearly planner that folds out where you can see the entire year in one calendar, right? That's the idea about it. So you can kind of zoom out, and it helps with planning and goals. And I can't even remember probably the Reddit thread that I got on and decided to order one from Amazon. But here it is, April 10th. And I haven't even hung it up yet. What's wrong with me? And I've thought this every 2 weeks since I got it in January. Probably the end of January, but still. What's wrong? Shit like that. And usually by the end of February, really. Because I feel like I'm start to fire on all cylinders in March, most years. So a couple weeks into February, I start to get my shit together, getting back on certain horses and getting my affairs in order. Because as a father of 5, running a household, there's always these fucking affairs you got to get in order. There's always shit you got to do. And it's easy to neglect. Or at least for me, there's different types of personalities out there that thrive on that enjoy that order. I'm too chaotic of a person. Like, Or it's just like, I am a chaotic person, but it's just not in my hierarchy of thinking. So I always back burner shit like that. And BBG doesn't help me either on a lot of that shit. Or shit that I assumed, my partner would. And, there's the ebbs and flows with that. But yeah, I just find myself, crawling out of another hole a little bit later than usual, but crawling out nonetheless. I have been running the program. I've been going for 5 for 5. Most weeks probably average a 3 for 5, but it's been solid work. I'm going all over the place. Dang it, this damn computer goes to sleep. Probably just got a great under neck triple chin angle on the camera. Oh, of course, always thinking about that. And part of me wants to pause to line up the lips again. Because if you guys noticed last time, there was after 10 minutes, the lips got misaligned. Like a bad kung fu movie. I can't say kung. I was saying Kong. A bad kung fu movie. And so what I want to do this time is assure that doesn't happen. And so Baby Jev was telling me the best way to do that is multiple pauses. And that would just mean multiple video. What is it? Yeah, multiple video pauses? That's what I would have to do. Damn it, Jev. Do I really want to do that? Or what if... Can I hit the clacker again? See, you're seeing in real time how stupid I am thinking out these problems. Like, I know if I pause the video and restart, I'll have a hard line again, and that's the best method. But somewhere in my brain, I'm thinking, well, can't I just clack it and then make sure everything's like... I know. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pause. And there might be several pauses in the video podcasting, or at least 3 or 4, to realign this. And I'm thinking, I was thinking earlier as I was running the program, and we'll get into the shows that I've been watching and starting, and just so much to get into. And I gotta let you in on what I built up to, the story, which usually takes me some time to tell. We'll see. I gotta pause. Love you. But there's gonna be a transition picture or something right here, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking of also the Batman thing. It was like, and it would spin some Baby Fat episode 100. Okay, bump the mic. And there's going to be breaks, transition. Hope you enjoyed that. Batman style. Don't know if it'll actually be Batman style. We'll see what I can do. I really need to get with Nathan Stufflebean and have a little rundown of handbrake, and he's doing some nasty edits. I need to learn some of the magic. But yeah, I did find the OG notes. If this is actually take 2, I should change that on the board there. I found the OG notes. I can't remember in the original take what I was talking about exactly, but plenty of things to talk about. I know plenty of actual notes that I've made too. Found the original hotline and email note, which hit the fat line. 816-459-0686. I still know it. Thank God. Hit the email, babyfatpod@gmail.com, if you don't want to call me. It's been dry, and I can't blame you. I did check it today. Called us in not to check it before you Palmcast, so I'm trying to get my ducks in order. Ducks in a row, not ducks in order. Yeah. Nervous, guys. It's been a while. But I don't really know where to start, where to go. So yeah, I have been running the program. I am back down to 230 pounds, but I've been cheating, y'all. Told you a long time ago. I'm a fucking cheat. And I've been running the program because I believe how I'm cheating. If you're not running the program, there's going to be some dire consequences, and there may already be, because I also believe that there's no biological free lunch. But as the master of talking out of both sides of his mouth, well, first I'm going to blame Danny Magic, Danny Polishchuk. Listen to Low Value Mel, listen to the Boys Cast with him and Ryan Long, and listen to The Bathhouse, which is my favorite among his podcasts. I guess you would say. I was trying to think of a adjective that would mean the same thing. But I love Danny. He goes viral on Twitter all the time. He's a little too right wing for my taste. Sometimes he could be a Trump bootlicker. But he also is so much more than that, as a lot of people are. We could spend this whole fucking episode 100 talking about politics and everything that's going on in the world. I mean, I'm just glad that we haven't nuked Iran yet, and there's no retaliatory nukes that would come to our missile silos in the middle of the United States, i.e. where I'm at. But we're not going to do that. Not political, of course. I do like having my station here. Like, I could get on the computer. We could do current events, things like that. If I needed to look up something and still record, it's really not that much of a bother. I just actually had to look up how to delete a section of GarageBand because before I restarted the video and hit the clacker, I kept the audio going. So I didn't want dead air for a whole minute of me setting up the new. See, this is the problem. I'll get distracted and then I won't finish my train of thought. The new video. But so far so good. I did miss you guys. My mentals for sure missed you. I mean, I know I need that. I need the podcast. That's what I just talked about looking up something, and we're going to do it live to tape right now. Because, as you guys know, I am the Van Gogh of podcasting, the Hispanic Express, the Brown Noise, Nate the Great, Nasty Nate, Nader, Naderade, Nestor, NATO, Nafe, Sal, DJ Salsa, the Mexican Water Moccasin, the John Gruden of fantasy football, the podcast industry plant, the Jason Samoa, I almost said, the Mid-Iguana, the Half-Blood Prince, the Tequila Sunrise, the Ghost of Guerrero, and the new favorite, Coach Salsa, which basketball season has wrapped up. We fought hard. K-Boog was actually asking for an update, and because he had fallen behind on Baby Fat, but if he got to the basketball era, he listened to the last two, so that is the basketball era, he gave up on catching up, which I get that happens with podcasts, and you definitely can't keep up if there's nothing to keep up with. And so YK, we're starting over. We're starting new at 100, basically, because a month and a half in the podcast world is death. It's death. So this is basically new again. And we ended the season strong. Won one game, lost one game to the dreaded blue team. It was really close. Lost by a bucket. And I asked Coach, YK, what I'm going to take a back seat that week. I was like, I'm going to take a back seat because whatever you did last week worked. And she's so sweet and helpful. She was like, well, I mean, the only difference last week was shots went in, YK. And they didn't necessarily go in that week or last week. But it was such a sharp go for us. It was such a good time. And one of the little sweethearts made me a card. And I was like, you don't even understand. Something like this is going to sit in my office forever. And now I can't see where I put it. But I've tucked it away somewhere. There's a little card that one of my players made. Damn it. But yeah, it was so cool. So fun. Such a good experience. And I thought about parlaying it into soccer. None of the girls asked to play soccer, so that was my scapegoat. But if I would have just been like, you guys want to play soccer? They both would have been like, yeah, but I wasn't ready for that type of commitment, and I didn't know this. Yeah, I just didn't want to continue giving up. I'm a selfish bastard. Just didn't want to continue giving up my Friday and Saturdays. Although I don't know that's when the games are played. And I don't know if it was possible for me to be a coach and not be able to practice any other night of the week besides Friday, because that's my only availability right now. So I didn't even want to worry about that. Like I said, they weren't even asking, but here I am. I do feel guilty because I wish we were out there. I know games just started, and that would have been fun too. Maybe next year. I did get one free entry for one of my kids for coaching, so that was kind of a thank you. Was a refund basically on one of my daughter's. It's about $100 or something to play. Unless you remember, it's a little bit cheaper. So at least one of those will be comped next season, or for whatever Y activity they want to do next. But yeah, can't wait to do more of that. Really can't wait for Tatum to get older and start playing sports. And one of his favorite things to do is play catch. And the guy, he's good. He's got hands like his dad. He can catch. I mean, it's freaking trippy to see his little freaking baby fat arms that are identical in shape to mine, same hands as mine, just miniature, and the mechanics and watching him catch stuff. It's some of the best stuff on earth. And yeah, you guys are all overdue. Yeah, you hear me? Every once in a while I do that. Yeah, gathering my thoughts. You guys are overdue for not only baby fat, but for an update on the kiddos. That's where Tatum's at. He's 2.5. Like officially last week was the official mark. And a couple weeks ago. Time just fucking flies. So cruel. Past the simulation, past the YouTube bullshit. We can start cussing a little bit more. Sorry, Grandma. But he's my little buddy during the day because I work from home, so I get to pop in throughout the day, get cups of coffee, or just take a break in there with him. But he's right on his mom's hip. He's such a little mama's boy, but so was I. And every time I work out and go and take a shower now, he doesn't even ask. He's just like, oh, we're showering. It's shower time. So he's been really loving his showers with me, but he doesn't even he hates to wash his hair. He's a freak out. Oh, my only baby that's a freak out about the water, like on his face. He acts like he's drowning, and he screams and cries, and as soon as it's over, he's fine. But he hates washing his hair. He does all right with his body, but he likes to be in the back of the shower playing with toys. And the shower in my room is just a small one, so it just crowds it up, and you got two freaking fat babies in there trying to fight for the water, but I can't say no to him. He's just too darn cute. 2.5. And then Nessa, she's still just a little squirt, and she'll always be a little squirt because her mom's petite, and she's just gonna follow in those footsteps. It's very obvious, but she has the heart of a lion and the personality of one too. And it was really cute. I went in the other day for Rogan's IEP meeting, which you have once a year, a couple times a year sometimes. And they let me in on a little tidbit of Rogan was struggling on the bus some days, and Nessa is in the habit now of walking by and checking in with the teachers as she gets off her bus, because she rides a different bus. Rogan gets picked up right in front of the house. She goes to the bus stop and rides that bus. When she gets off her bus, she goes by and asks, how did Rogan do today on the bus? And very matter of fact, very business as usual. And to hear that the other day was just adorable. And she's maturing. And it was awesome to coach her this past season because she's a little bit more coachable and than her sister Sophia, and loves to compete, loves to play games, is all about that. Whereas Sophia is not as coachable. She could give a rat's ass sometimes what you want her to do, and she can be very thick-headed, just like both of her parents, super stubborn, and she's ADD. So when it comes to explaining things, she could be off in her own little world sometimes, or just it's not preferred. So she has no interest. But she's really matured too. These past several months, this past winter, not only have her and Rogan both shot up in height Their legs are just getting so long, and Sophia's tall. Sophia has the same size foot as Olivia now. I think it's actually a little bit bigger because Olivia has Flintstone feet. Like legitimate, look at the Flintstone character illustration of a foot. And that's what Olivia's foot looks like. Little freaking cute little Flintstone foot. But Sophia's got a big foot like me. And I was always taller in my class. She's got to be one of the tallest girls in her class, I'm sure. So she'll have like the size of an athlete, but she doesn't really have that competitive nature. She can be competitive, but it has to be really preferred. But at the end of the season, and I told you guys when I wasn't there, she was really competitive and really showed out. So we'll see. She could turn it good. Like I was saying during her meeting, parent-teacher meeting the other day, it was about third grade when I really came online mentally and started wanting more out of life. And her teacher kind of must have said something that reminded me of that, because I shared that with them, and there was two of them because she was doing so well. One of her other teachers wanted to brag on her, and girls mature faster than boys typically, so maybe her coming online was second grade for her because she'll be in third grade next year. And it wasn't really until the end of third grade, early fourth grade is when I really got my act together. So she's got some time to really turn a new leaf. Not that she's a bad kid or anything, but just want a little bit more. I want her to want to, there's a 4-year difference between her and Vanessa, but they spend all day fighting together. I'm so tired of dealing with an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and an 8-year-old wanting to hold the same mentality or just be on that same level. Like, she just needs to do better in some aspects. And, YK, she's the best when it comes to Rogan. And Rogan loves her the most. You're not supposed to have favorites or anything out of his siblings. And they're so close, and she can really read and understand him, and she's so forgiving and patient with him. I love how she acts with him. And so and they're Irish twins, so it's not much of a gap. And so I know she can be such a good big sister. Damn, this thing just went to sleep again. That's going to be annoying for the cast, like me doing these, and just interrupts me completely. But so I know she can be a great big sister. She just chooses not to. She's too smart for her own good sometimes. But yeah, I love seeing her become a little lady more and more. And I skipped Ruggie. He doesn't say anything still. And so he's easy to skip over sometimes. And when I struggle with everything, I really always feel the most guilty about my lack for what I could be doing for him. Not that I'm going to find some key out there that opens up Rogan like a treasure box, but that's what I always feel like that. I always feel like, life's a game, like Zelda or something, and there's something out there that I could be, doors I could be knocking on or stones I could be turning over and just find the answer. But same for him that I said about Sophia. Maybe he'll come online around the same time that I did. Just, man, the boy understands everything. Everything you say. Just the other day, Michaela was talking with Sophia, and Sophia can make herself burp, and she was doing it at the table. And she asked, well, why doesn't Rogan ever do that? Rogan burps, just he doesn't make himself, and he's not obnoxious with it ever. And Michaela was like, well, maybe he doesn't know how to make himself burp. And as soon as she said burp, he made himself burp and burped. Like he knows what's going on. It's just the output. Unlocking that. And some days you feel like you're closer than others. And then a lot of days it feels like you're spinning your wheels. And then for me, I'm so busy doing everything else and being pulled in a lot of directions. I'm like, what did I even do to try to progress that today? Nothing. I started talking about him because I skipped him in order. He should have been after Vanessa in these updates, but not that I don't have my routines and certain things that I do with him, but he's easy to skip over because he's not a squeaky wheel. He's far from it. He's my good kid. That's what I always say. Big sniff. Makes me sad. Just always know I could be doing more for him. But my capacity's not always there. Or if it is, I'm too fucked up to fucking make it happen, Captain. I don't know. It's just always a work in progress. To trying to be a better parent for him. It's tough. But that brings me to Olivia, who, man, I struggle with all my kids in different ways, but I really struggle with her. I really struggle with connecting with her, and it's a lot like my dynamic with my mom. But I feel like maybe even, I don't know, me and my mom have been disconnected for a long time. Like, I don't know. I would always say that she liked Alex more, or that, you know, he was the favorite before the little boys, before Patrick and Jevin came. Then it was easily Jevin is her favorite. Like, and I think she'll even tell you today, or she won't deny it. And then she'll be like, well, he is the only one that calls me, or some bullshit. She'll like give a reason for why he should be the fucking favorite. So, you know, like our dynamic is similar to what mine and Olivia's dynamic is. And, you know, I was a young parent with her. So you make all your mistakes with your first one. But of course. And my mom was a really young parent with me. Only an 18-year difference when I was born with her, a 21-year difference between me and Olivia. And that dynamic rolled out the same way, to where it's almost like I'm her big brother more than I'm her dad sometimes, even though I'm mischaracterizing myself in some aspects, because she does see me as dad. But and I go back and forth, because when she was the age of Sophia now and Vanessa, we had the same relationship and closeness that I have with those little girls, and then they end up getting older and not wanting to have anything to do with you. At least that was my experience with Olivia. And I thought that she would come back sooner than this, you know, and when I open up and talk about this, it's like, yeah, she will, you know, give her time, you know, stuff like this. And I'm impatient. I want her just to be a daddy's girl, when maybe she's not. Well, I mean, she's definitely not, because of the distance between her and her mom. She lives with me, works on the weekends now, and so her mom goes out of her way to come and visit her a few times a month. Or Olivia does go down there when she does get a gap of days to spend down there. But those are, you know, becoming harder to come by, and so the distance makes the heart grow fonder, or whatever that is. And so her mom has the leg up there. But I hear it. I've shared with you guys before. I hear the difference when she talks to her on the phone. It's just, they're so much closer than her or I are anymore, and that used to not be the case. And as a competitive person, no, just as, yeah, part of me wants to be the shining star parent, sure, the competitive part. But a lot of me misses my little girl, and the respect that came with her loving me that much. Like, I feel like she doesn't love me as much as she used to, which is, you know, not true, and a horrible thing to even say and put on her. But that's how I feel, because of how things have been going. Just been bad. And like, not to her fault. You know, really, it's my fault. decisions that I've made have led us to where we're at. And really it's, YK stuff that's not the end of the world. I was worse to my mom. And I hold out hope in the back of my head like she still loves me as much as I adored my mom still. And even though I would say like horrible, nasty things in the midst of being mad, to which I still do today, I'm just experiencing that now with her for the first time. And that's been tough. But it's like looking into a mirror. Because like I just said, I did the same things and said worse. But it's just been tough. Because you're always like, I'm going to do a better job. My mom, maybe that's the competitive part of me too. I always thought I would just be so good at parenting because of, my mom having to work so much, not being there, and then my dad not being there at all. Pretty low bar. My mom did the best she could. I hate to always paint her as a villain because at least she showed up, And damn, if the video doesn't hide the emotion. I mean, you can hear it in my voice, but it's tough. And this is episode 100. But we'll get to that story. But obviously, something that's really been bothering me. And yeah, I hope she comes back, So, if you hear this, come back. And we're back. Let's line that up. But yeah, it's been tough. Big sniff. My kids just got off the bus and came home, so cheered me right up. But dang. Yeah, I always thought I'd do a little bit better job. And I see, like, my friends especially Burns and Ashley, and I see Burns and Lily's relationship, and it's, man, so envious. And, just a different human experience. We're all different, so. But, yeah, it just makes me think, just like with Rogie always, what did I do? And I know certain things that I definitely did and have done. But, yeah. And then times that by time, being the cruel bitch that it is, and we're running out. She's a sophomore. I got to go see her play soccer yesterday, and she's so tenacious. She's little. Not that she was the smallest girl out there, but close to it. Short little legs, but what she lacks in physical attributes, she makes up for hustle and heart. And she's good. She's a good defender. It was really fun to watch. Oh, this phone looks crooked. I wonder how the picture looks. Part of me wants to get up and check. But it is what it is. Sometimes it's going to be a crooked picture. And I know it's already shifted because I took my phone out of it to go when the kids got home. It's a mess. It's a hot mess. It's episode 100, but we're running out of time. We're running out of time. Land this bird Tim Butterly style. So, I wish I could insert a FaceTime video with Francisco right now. That's what I've been trying to do for a month. And maybe it's Friday. I'm recording this in 4K, 130 frames per second. So it's going to be a huge file. The upload time is going to take even longer. There's several different videos. I'm 2 months rusty from doing it, a month and a half. So maybe we can connect tonight, and I can insert it. I'll include my version in what we tell together, if that happens. Fingers crossed. And yeah, but without it, we yeah, I don't know. Now I'm gonna pause. I get an important email. Well, hopefully the lips match up better. I know I have my work cut out for me when it comes to uploading all these little videos now that I've taken so many breaks, and yeah, that's what I do as a 36 Dune. 36 years, can't talk. Probably a worse talker now than I was 20 years ago. 36 going on 37. Soon. That's what I was trying to say. Soon. Next month. Crazy. Getting old. Knocking on the door of 40. Fucking crazy. Fucking crazy. Oh, I don't know why I want to tell you guys this before I get into the 100th story, but I meant to get into it earlier. I started the shot. That's how I've been cheating. My ADD, shout out, call it a goat, second time. I started ordering Chinese peptides from the gray market and reconstituting them myself and injecting myself. And my blood type is IB. IB positive. They ain't sticking me with no needles. Shout out Jim Carrey from Bruce Almighty. I hate shots. But these little diabetic needles, my little setup, you know, and I just, this is bag noise for, these little needles I got off Amazon that are meant for insulin, and this is Tirzepatide is the one that I ordered, and it's legit. It works so fucking good. I started on the small dose that most people start on. Dr. ChatGPT is guiding me through, and this is not medical advice. This is for research purposes only on my own domain, because that's what these are sold as on the gray market. Is for research purpose only, and it's like not for human consumption, and it's straight up from China. And I talk all this shit. I've even talked shit on Ozempic and this before, but I fucking gave up. You know, keep it a buck. And I did a lot of research, and I seem to be a prime candidate for it. And the minimal side effects that I've had feels like, yeah, I needed this to put me over the hump, because I work my fucking ass off in this go rage and plateau and just get frustrated. Not to say that I give it my all in the kitchen, but that's where, I can't believe it, because I hate going to the doctor. I don't take medicine, but I'm jabbing myself with a fucking needle once a week and injecting Chinese peptides in my stomach. And I will testify. The appetite suppression is phenomenal. And it's Friday. By tomorrow, my appetite will start to come back. The ravenous pit that it is will start to roar back. I even noticed it last Easter Sunday. We went to my mom's for the first time, everybody as a family, and it was so fun. I don't have time to get into it because I got to tell this story, but my appetite I was making up for all week, because I have to force myself to eat. And I do notice I can just not eat that much, low calorie, and my weight loss will start to plateau. But if I get closer to hitting my protein goals within a calorie deficit, then the weight falls off. It's crazy. The better I eat, the more weight I lose. And it's like I don't have enough appetite to even surpass and get into a calorie surplus. So it's incredible medicine. Got to be honest. But yeah, I'm a fucking little fat baby back bitch for talking all this shit. China, I don't even have TikTok. And here I am, jabbing myself with it. And somebody afraid of needles? I mean, it's crazy. I can't believe it, to be honest with you. Now, I'm about to get Rogie off the bus, so there will be a break, but I got to get into the story. It's episode 100, and you've made it this far, and I appreciate you. You heard the hot peppers. Now stay for the Billy tie. But listen to this real quick. So, 20 years ago, gosh, has it been that long? Almost 20 years ago. About 17 years ago. I was 19. I ran out of opportunities in my small town. And when I've mentioned that before, when I did that, I would go and live with Francisco. And this was the first time I would do that. And we had always talked about going to Acapulco. And that's where he's from, in Mexico. And so I don't know if when I moved out there that was in the conversation, but we had talked about it my whole life. But when I did move out there, it quickly became like a goal of what we were going to be doing in the next couple months. We were going to be moving. I was living with him, and I told you guys about it. We were living in the jungle, basically. Not really, the concrete jungle. Friday and Saturday, it was pretty dangerous where we lived. It was dangerous every night, but especially those nights. It was where I was, fighting the bed bugs, living with a group of people. Most I didn't know. Shared a bed with him and his girlfriend. Not even a king. Okay, so I'll preface the story there because I hear Rogie's bus, and I'll be right back. And so I'm in the bed bug-ridden apartment that doesn't seem to be affecting any of these other Mexicans at all. Like, I would wake up every day. I've already shared this story. Wake up every day covered in bites. Francisco would be confused because he had 0 bites. But yeah, and so first the goal was like, okay, we got to move. I'm sure he was like, yeah, I don't want to be living here either. His sister was living there with us, and we were going to work every day, and he had a girlfriend too at the time. And so I have to speed run this story a little bit. I can't get into every fine detail. Like, I could have spent the whole hour really, really telling the experience. But now that it's out there, maybe I'll revisit it and get into the finer details later. But here it is. It's not even that crazy. Well, it is. It's pretty fucking crazy. But so we work for a few months. I have to work on getting a passport. That actually held us up at the end. We were ready to go. We had moved in to this other house, which, sorry, I just keep getting important emails. But we'd moved his sister into this house days before we left. Like, that was the last thing we must have done because we never even spent a night in that house. But the plan was for us to go to Acapulco and spend a couple weeks and come back and live there with this other family. I don't think they were Mexican. I think they were like El Salvadorian or something, but we were going to live in the basement. Like, I moved my stuff there. Like, I lost these pink, the only thing I really remember, my prized possession of pink skateboard shoes. That was in my huge, which also prized possession, football duffel bag that just got left behind. Now we're going to hear the kids. Oh, the baby got outside. It's like, what the hell was that scream? And he wants to play out front, and he can't play out front. Scared me. Poor guy. I left the door open after I got Rogie off the bus. That's my fault. The girls are scootering right behind this garage door. Oh, my God. Tatum's a squealer. But, oh, my God. And I never made it back to that house and lost all of that stuff. But it was mainly just clothes, and whatever else I had accumulated. Because I moved out there with basically just what I had packed. And I can't even remember if I was, I was living with Burns. I moved out of the greenhouse. and he was going to go and move to Columbia, I think, and go to school. Maybe he moved with his parents. I'd have to ask Burns where he went. And I went to Francisco's. And I finally got my passport, and we took off. And the plan was to bring a car down there because he had been doing this, driving cars from America down to Acapulco and making a profit because our cars were valuable there. They were just scarce to get like a good Toyota Corolla is what I drove down there, or a Toyota something, maybe even a step down from a Corolla. I can't remember what they called it back in those years. He drove, what did he drive all the way down? Oh, a Dodge truck. Francisco drove. And then he also was like, oh, my friend is going to drive down there with us. And he lived in Kansas. So that worked out because we were going to drive from Baltimore, or Annapolis, really is where we lived at the time, to Missouri, visit my mom, which we did, and then go to Kansas and take off from Rafa's house, his friend, and we take off from Kansas and drive all the way down to Mexico. Just head south, straight from Kansas, because it's basically a straight shot south from there. And so we did that. I remember eating dinner with Rafa's family the night before. I think we had pozole, to be honest. And he had this stepdaughter. She was so fucking hot. Oh, my God. Didn't know what to do back then. Oh, she was gorgeous, though. And my age. Chill. And we took off that next morning. Just met him. Nice guy. I've met a million of Francisco's friends. Become fast friends with them too, And so we're driving. It's going to take days. It was like 5 days of driving now. Now I can't really recall how many days. And there was some extra days added because of what occurred. That first night, though, I remember sleeping in a gas station parking lot. And before we went to sleep, because we drove for as long as we could, it was late in the night, but we had finally made it past the border. And when you make it past the border, there's several other border checkpoints. Mexico has their other checkpoints past the border. And we made it past all those, and we're driving in what seems like undeveloped desert. Every once in a while, you'd pass through these shanty towns, nothing major. And we end up at an OXXO, an OXXO, however you say that, their main gas station like 7-Eleven. And we're going to sleep in the parking lot. But before we do that, Francisco makes sure to go and buy a coffee and bribe this dude that's standing by the gas pumps who has this long-range walkie-talkie on him. And he just instinctually knows that guy works for the cartel. I mean, it's not his first rodeo, and he's, Francisco's hard. I was hoping I could, say this and have him elaborate on certain stories and stuff that he's told me, but maybe for another day. Maybe it's a reason for you to keep tuning in, the Francisco app. But turns out, yeah, he was absolutely right, and that guy was radioing to when it was clear for the cartel to run certain shipments to the border, because that was right close to the border still in those checkpoints I just was talking about. And so we were cool with them, and we spend the night. I get an awful night of sleep in the driver's side, driver's side of that car, tiny little Toyota. I had this burnt CD that I played for 4 or 5 days straight, and I still know every word to those songs that were on the CD. I wish I could remember all of those songs, but every once in a while one will come on and I'll be like, yep, it's my road trip jam. I wish you would step back. That's on there. There was some Beatles on there, Come Together for sure. There was some Bob Marley. Red Hot Chili Peppers probably. I can't quite recall. I wish I still had that CD just for the nostalgia berries, but it is cool because every time I do hear a song that was on that track, I for sure just go right back to that drive. And it's days. And we don't, run into any trouble or anything for the first couple days of the drive. The roads are horrible. And I'm gonna run overtime. This is episode 100, so this will just be long. My autism's like spurging out because it's like You only have 4 minutes left to land the bird Timberlake style. It's like, chill. I got to get through the story. You guys have been here long enough. And the worst road in Mexico the worst road in the U.S. is a good road in Mexico. Like just pothole city and just underdeveloped everywhere. Poor people. I remember having some of the best chilaquiles at a gas station type diner thing, But when you picture it in your mind, what we have here, it's not what it looked like there. But that's essentially what it was. And I remember leaving another establishment at one place, and this group of kids just surrounding me, and this one kid, probably a little bit younger than me at the time, asked if you could have my hat. And I've shared this before, I'm pretty sure. And one of my biggest regrets in life, I was like, no, because I was on my way to Mexico and I wanted to look fresh, for my experience down there. And I couldn't give up this white DC hat to this guy that would never, ever have a chance to get another one or to get one. I mean, maybe now. I mean, technology's come a long way. I could have just given it to him. And I should have just given it to him. YK. I regret it. And then the first bit of trouble happened when we were going down the mountain for too long and having to ride the brake, and the brakes went out in the car that I had. Not that I ran off the mountain or anything like that. I don't want you to think like that. We just had to pull over. And of course there was this several little huts, mechanic hut for brakes specifically, because it probably happens often, right where we needed it. And we pulled off for half a day and ate there. And I haven't thought about this in so long, but like spend time with that mechanic's family essentially for a little bit. He fixed the brakes up. We got back on the road. And can't even really remember where we slept, other than a couple because it took 4 or 5 days, just different parking lots and things like that. I remember that first night. Oh no video signal. What? No source on the computer. I don't know. That first night that I was telling you about at the gas station with the guy with the cartel walkie-talkie. This is scary. Oh, signal found. To just blink it in and out of existence, of course. It was... Come on, be good, computer. It was... I remember taking a shit in the morning. An awful shit. Didn't shit good. I haven't shit good since fucking Mexico. Some kind of parasite got in me at some point. And my shit was never the same since leaving that fucking god-awful place. Getting back on track now. Speaking of the Chinese peptides, that's one thing. It's helped my digestive tract. And to be honest, people that suffer with IBS, which I think I have IBS. I don't. In all the forums that I'm reading, they're like, yes, it's like essentially cured my IBS. So if you have IBS out there, I was just like a pre-diabetic. And if you look at my family on both sides, you can see we're susceptible to diabetes or just slow metabolism, becoming overweight. It's too easy for me to gain weight. And my brother's wife, Randy, said a thing that struck me the other day, because she's used it too. And she's like, I was telling her I barely have any side effects. Like I get bouts of nausea here and there, just random bouts of nausea. She's like, well, yeah, you must need it. If you're having minimal side effects, that's because you need it. The people that have these crazy side effects and bad side effects are the ones that don't really need it. Probably a lot of truth to that. Anyways, all right now. It's been a while. And I can't really remember where we were sleeping, but I took this fucking awful shit that first morning, and there's not toilet paper. I was lucky to find a public bathroom, because you have to pay to use the bathroom usually in Mexico. And there's just not always a readily available public restroom. Like that's another thing about America that I appreciated so much when I finally got home. And maybe I'll have to take a break here so the lips line up for this story, because I really want it to. I've taken enough, but not yet. But anyways, all right now. And I remember having to use dirty newspaper on the floor. And I was just instructed by Francisco. He's like, yeah, there'll be, people leave newspaper. And sure enough, he was right. And their newspaper is so graphic. Like if somebody gets shot, like that's the news usually. You know, somebody dies, they show the death photo or the crime scene photo. So first morning waking up in Mexico, went to bed, hardly slept because there's a cartel henchman with a walkie-talkie at the gas pumps, and I'm excited and scared, and then I take this awful shit in the morning and I have to wipe with this fucking gruesome newspaper, and just already a different world. You know, flash forward to a few days, get the brakes fixed, and then we're going, and then we're going one morning, and we're in Toluca, Mexico, you know, and it's outside. Damn it. Oh, 1 second. No. Fuck that. That can wait. It's outside Mexico City, I believe, Toluca. I remember watching their football team, their soccer team, while I was down there. But we're driving into Toluca, one morning, and it's Rafa, Francisco, and then me. You know, we have this trio. Rafa's got a truck too, and it's fully loaded because he's moving down there permanently, leaving his family behind for like a year, essentially, I think was the plan, maybe even longer, and which Mexicans are used to doing that. And he was going to establish their home there so the family could move back to Mexico because they had made their bread in America. And that's usually all of their goal, is to make enough money to support their family and eventually go back home and retire, and then maybe do some, he was going to do some side independent tourism. You know, just he lived in America so he could speak English, so he went to the beach every day and just tried to prey on tourists to be like, hey, do you need somebody to show you around? Because he was from Acapulco too, and he, you know, that was working for tips. And that was going to be enough to sustain him. That's how little you need and how little everybody has too, and the opportunities are just so fickle. Anyways, all right now. And so Rafa's got a whole truck packed, and Francisco and then me. And all of a sudden, we're being pulled over, which we had gone through some weird checkpoints before that, and even after, and even guys with machine. As soon as you cross the border, there's always machine guns or heavy military. You know, the police is very militarized too, and there's a bunch of different kind of police, though, like we have, but all different colors, and we're essentially getting pulled over by the local police. And when you get pulled over in Mexico, and I've said that line so many times when I tell this story, it's not like here. There was like 6 Mexicans jammed into a Nissan Suru, which is this tiny car. And there was 2 different Surus, I think. And 3 cops got out. And then the Surus drove off. And we were now each under the custody of one of those officers. And Francisco was like, you know, just at this point, he doesn't know what's going on either. And essentially, the plan is now that since we've broken the law according to them, which the law that we broke was, it's so heavily populated there, there's so many cars on the road, that only certain license plates can drive on certain days. And since we had United States license plates, we weren't allowed to be on the road. Some just really a lie, you know, but that's what they were saying. And this is what Francisco's saying to me quickly, and he's like, you know, they're saying that we're going to drive ourselves to jail now. You know, he's going to get in with you, but you drive. And so I have this fucking Mexican cop get in my passenger side, and we start driving ourselves to jail. And the entire time we have these two-way radios, the entire time that we're driving down there, like, hey, I gotta go pee. Let's pull over the next spot where I'm getting thirsty. Let's go to the next gas station, that we're communicating with. These little Motorola walkie-talkies. And maybe Francisco was telling me that over that, or maybe he told me quickly before we got into the car and started driving ourselves to jail that was going on, what was going on. But when we start to go the first time, and they just got dropped off. 3 of them got dropped off. Rafa's cop was driving his vehicle because he was the front vehicle. But Francisco remained driving and I remained driving, and our cops were passengers. Just how it worked out. And Rafa's truck was so jam-packed loaded that he had to just kind of scoot over to the middle of a bench seat of a truck and sit right next to the cop as he was leading the pack, driving us to jail. And as soon as the cop gets in the car, he starts going through all my shit. I remember having like a Nintendo Wii, and he was just pilfering through all my shit, seeing if he could find money. That's what they wanted. They were trying to be bribed. But apparently, and Francisco was used to that, and he probably offered to pay them something. And I remember it. I can see his face right now. And that's when I knew it was going south, is he offered to pay something so we could just go on our way, and they countered with something exorbitant. And he was like, I'm not about to get washed. And I guess he was like, let's see how this is going to fucking play out. Because that's what we started doing. We started seeing how it was going to fucking play out. And we started driving ourselves to jail. And this cop's saying, paga, paga, paga. And I'm telling him, no hay dinero, no tengo dinero. And he doesn't give a fuck, and he doesn't believe me because he knows I'm American too. He thinks I just have money. And we pull over, after a little bit, but it's all blur, and even then it was a blur, no concept of time. And they confer, this happens a couple times. We'll drive a little bit, they get out, they start talking to each other, they get back in. And, essentially they keep getting back together going, hey, we can't fucking really take them to jail. They didn't do anything wrong, but they're also not paying. So what are we going to do? And this happens, 3 times, I think. And on the 3rd time, we find ourselves on this lone stretch of highway. And I remember there being cornfields, and it wasn't far from civilization, though. It was right off a main road. There's a bus stop over there, too. But we're pulled over there, 3 cars. And they always go, sorry, got to get the video or the computer so I can make sure everything's on track. And they always go to the front car every time that they confer. It must be the guy that's in charge amongst them 3. And the guy that was driving Rafa's truck, leading us the entire time, essentially. And so this time, though, Francisco hops out of his driver's side and comes back to my window. And he's like, does your cop have a gun? And I'm like, I don't know, man. And what's going on? What are we doing? He can see I'm clearly freaked out. He's like, just be calm, be calm. He's like, even if he does have a gun, a lot of times they don't have bullets because they can't afford it. I'm like, what? What the fuck even if he has a gun, what do you mean, what the fuck, even if he has, but there's no time to even, I couldn't even rebut that, I don't think. I'm just taking in all the information I can, asking a little bit of questions I can, and then they see that we're talking, and our 2 cops immediately come back, and, or not immediately, they start to notice that we're talking, and Francisco, before he departs, he's like, okay, follow my lead. We're taking off. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? And so he hops in his car, and by that time, both of our cops were making their way back to our vehicles, and they must have decided to keep on the rigmarole because they both got in our vehicle again. Francisco's cop and his, my cop and mine. No, I'm lying. Not my cop and mine. My cop didn't make it back to my car. And Francisco's cop did make it back to his car, but he started to take off, and he told me to follow his lead, so I took the fuck off and didn't let that guy have a chance to get into my car. But I have to swerve them. as I'm pulling out, because we kind of pulled over closely. So they're right there. He's trying to get in, and he's not like grabbing at the car or anything, but they're starting to notice, oh fuck, they're taking off. But we do. We flip a bitch and we start driving down that straightaway the other way. But remember, Francisco's cop is in the car with him. Sorry, it's making me emotional. It's way too early to be like that. But it was scary. And so we're taking off back the direction we came, but like we're lost in Toluca, Mexico. What it is the thought of, and if Francisco was here, I wouldn't be crying. I really hold it together for him. I have this, always, even before this deep respect for him. But we left Rafa, kind of like had to do what we had to do. We took off. So I'm going to make sure the lips are. And so I knew it would be difficult, this episode, this story in particular. But yeah, I haven't told it in a long time either. But we left Rafa behind. And that was, looking back, that was hairy, to say the least. And so we're taking off back the other way where we came from. And my cop and Rafa's cop remain where they're at. Francisco's cop is in the car with him. They're in front of me, blazing speeds. I'm right behind him. All of a sudden, I see Francisco pick up his two-way radio and start to beat this cop in the face with it. Later I would find out that he actually told the cop that this was a recording device. And this was pre-smartphone. And they didn't know any better. They thought, oh, these Americans with their great technology, basically. He told them that the Motorola two-way was a recording device, and everything that just happened, they were recorded, and we were going to go and to the proper authorities, turn them in, and he was going to be fucked. And essentially he would have, if they got caught, if they ever did get caught. If a dirty cop gets caught being dirty, they take everything from that cop and everything they ever had, because they assume it's all been dirty. And then we all know what happens to cops in prison, tenfold in a Mexican prison. And so this made the cop start crying. And Francisco said, "You little fucking bitch, you're going to fuck." And that set him off, and Francisco went into rage mode and started jacking this guy in the face, and he tuck and rolled. He opened up his passenger, or maybe Francisco forced him to do it, told him to get the fuck out. And he tucks and rolls, and I have to swerve because we're going high speed so I don't run him over. And I still remember his fat body tumbling, but it was like horizontal. He was laying horizontal, and I just swerved and went around, and we kept driving. And it was close enough that that guy could run back to where they still had Rafa and my cop at. But mind you, that truck is so jam-packed full that they can't all just get in it. So me and Francisco keep driving, and we pull over at the first gas station. And this is where, where my idea for episode 100 kind of came about, because I used to more regularly amend some of the tall tales that I've told. And I've always lied about this second half of the story, just because I have a clear eye view of it based on Francisco's recollection. But I always say that we stopped at this gas station and rallied some folks, some local folks, to go after these dirty cops, which Francisco absolutely did. But he told me to stay there with my car and he would be back. And I stayed there, and he was like, you should stay here because every gas station has an armed guard because they handle like a lot of cash right at the pump, the gas attendants. And he thought maybe I'd be safe next to that big gun, and if he didn't make it back, I could make my way better from that vantage point than going back to the real sticky situation like he bravely did. And I always wanted that to be my story too, that I went back with him. But I didn't. I lied many times. I've told that story. I think sometimes I've told it correctly, and a lot of times no. A lot of times I'm like, and so then we rallied some locals around, which Francisco did. He was like, explain the situation, and just random citizens hopped in this car and drove him back the couple miles where Rafa was. And fortunately, they all four were still there. Big sniff. And Francisco goes on to tell me, because I'm alive, Francisco's still alive, and we go, he gets back there, and they get close enough, and those random citizens see that those cops do have guns, and so their bravery wanes a little bit, and they drop Francisco off at a point. They do stay back for him, though. I will give him that, because and he starts to walk up, but it's his lone fight to fight. And, they got Rafa, two of them, and the guy in charge has a gun pointing at Francisco, telling him he's going to kill him, he's going to kill his friend, and, what he did was a big mistake. And Francisco, the fucking hero that he is, stared the cop in the face, stared that gun down, and said, I live to die. I think he threw in some expletives after that. And fortunately, in this story, if you remember, there was a bus stop. And all of a sudden, here comes that public transportation to pick up whomever was there within eye view. Enough so that the cop who has the gun drawn on Francisco draws it behind his back. And Francisco's fast, and he charges him. And he grabs the guy, and he starts pulling the trigger. And the guy's got the gun behind his back, though, but Francisco's pulling the trigger, and he was going to shoot into his body wherever that barrel was pointed, and then worry about the next two. And this is happening in a millisecond. Actually, I wish he was here, because I think he said he ran on the bus and told them the situation, but that they didn't care, and then he ran off the bus, and that's when he charged the guy. Something like that. See, I wish he was there, because I wasn't there, but this was always the version that I told, and it's very similar. The main part is that he squeezed the guy around as hard as he could and tried to kill him, but wisely, there was no bullets in the gun, like he said. They're so he was like, the police stations are so poor that the gun is a prop a lot of times, essentially, and they don't carry ammunition, so they really have to. And when he came back, because then he throws the guy down, and these other fucking two pussies realize, oh, Francisco's a real deal. And Francisco could have fucked up all three of them, and they realize that at this point. And I'm sure Rafa was still not doing much, because it was 2-on-1 by his door, and probably just as shocked as I was. But nonetheless, it ends up that they start to run away from Francisco, and they push Rafa in the truck. They get in, and the two jump and hold on to the back, because his thing's tarped down and fully loaded, but it still is a truck, so they can hang on somehow. See, I wasn't there, so I don't have that picture in my mind. I've always just kind of filled in those blanks once he got back and he told me what just went down. And they're telling him as he's driving off that we're going to kill your friend, fuck you, motherfucker. You got us here, but we're driving him off and you'll never find him. But Francisco still had that caravan, and they drive back up on him. There's something about the bus. See, I wish he was here. That's throwing me off. That used to be a key part, but it's been almost 20 years. I can't quite remember that detail. But the bus pulling up made the cop withdraw a little bit and gave him a moment of opportunity. But then I remember him saying he ran on the bus and they didn't give a fuck. He was trying to rally them too. And that's the type of guy he is. He's a warrior and he's a leader. He could rally people. He rallied that whole caravan of people in a split second. We weren't like pedaling at the gas station. This was like minutes. This was all happening. So they drive off with Rafa now. We lose him for the second time. And this time they're assuring us that they're going to kill him, and Francisco hops in that caravan that brought him there, and they give him a ride back and dropped him off, and I'm just so relieved to see him because I'm just sitting there biding my time, which seemed like maybe 20 minutes, and getting scareder by the minute, like, what the fuck am I going to do? What do I even do? How do I call my mom, basically? I don't even know how to dial a phone in Mexico. I don't speak the language. It would have been incredibly difficult, and I would have been very vulnerable. But Francisco came back, and he left his truck parked there. So we continue on our way, but he's thinking Rafa, and so before we don't just keep driving, we go to essentially is how he described it that day was the Mexican FBI, and we were close to downtown Toluca, and we went into the headquarters of some big, huge building. And I remember, they took us very seriously. They saw us. They took us up the elevator, and it opened up to what seemed like the closest thing to home since I'd got in that damn car and started driving. It was like a regular office with cubicles, and people dressed nice, and the building was nice. It was already a downtown kind of urban area. So that was already more developed than anything I'd seen in that half a week or better. But this was like an actual office building and high level. Well, at least for there, because I still think that they used a typewriter maybe even to type up our report. But we did. We spent the rest of the day there telling what had just happened. And they sent out other officers or other agents to try and go apprehend these guys and find Rafa. And they lined up multiple different law enforcement agencies. And Francisco tried to point them out, but it was to no avail. They didn't find him that day. And they took a report, took, Rafa's description, and, but they knew just as well as we did that the chances are they went and did what they said they were going to do. They did put us up in a hotel that night. It's the first time I had hot water since the drive started. It was a nice hotel for Mexico standards. At the time, I was like, this is a little janky, but at least the shower's hot. That's nice. We walked down to a gas station that was close enough, and it was still all odd. Like, check-in was different. The parking was, like, gated at the end of the night, But I was just in a blender that night. But we got some sleep, and we had like another day and a half till we got to Acapulco. But it just like, this dark cloud over us now. And trauma for me. Francisco, I don't think he was as bothered. He grew up way harder than I did. You just heard of his heroics. For him, that might not even make his top 10, like, sticky situations, to be honest. For me, it's my number one, I've been closer to dying in a couple situations. I fucking pulled out in front of a semi today that was too close. that was too heavy of a load that wouldn't have been able to stop if my car would have somehow not been able to make that turn quick. I think, the what ifs there. I feel like maybe I was closer to dying this morning than I was there because they didn't have bullets in the gun, but it was scary nonetheless. Thinking that you're getting taken to Mexican jail. It's not knowing the fight, high speed, not chase, but I was chasing Francisco, I guess, and then him taking off, but thankfully coming back. But we still have this day and a half drive that just fucking put a whole damper on everything. We were going to Acapulco, was paradise, and it was supposed to be such a positive trip, and Rafa was moving down there to restart his life, to lay down his retirement foundation. And yeah. And so we finished the drive. I'm sure there's probably something else that might have happened. I do remember after that, we got stopped by some either police, some kind of military police, and the Mexican FBI or whomever they were that day gave us papers to show that we had been fucking hassled and fucked with, and that we should not be fucked with again, basically. And that's what Francisco would tell. He speaks in layman English. It's his second language, so the best way he could explain it was like that. They gave us some paperwork to be like, these guys have already been through it, so don't fucking shake them down anymore. Straight from the FBI, or something like that. And it worked every other checkpoint. So we got to Acapulco without another problem, except that our friend was missing, presumably dead. And I remember we first pulled into Acapulco, big city, huge city. And it is paradise. It's this bay right off the open ocean. And so it's just this beautiful beachfront hotels. It used to be where the stars would go to get away in the 50s and 60s. And then it got more dangerous. So when I was there, it was the thick of the danger. It was the murder capital of Mexico at one point. Not when I was there maybe, but it was high on the list at the time. Very dangerous the entire time I was there. You had to keep your head on a swivel. And first thing we did, we wanted to find some weed. And he thought, this one guy, every time he goes to Acapulco, he says he's always there and ready to serve it up. And we got there and he wasn't. I think that was the first thing we did, because we really needed to fucking smoke after that. I'll tell you that. We were excited for that. But then the next thing was to go and check in with our family, unload, and go to my aunt's house, who recently passed away a year or two ago, a couple years now, and so graciously hosted me for what was supposed to be a couple weeks now was going to turn into a few months, because quite frankly we needed the fucking break after that. And maybe that was Francisco's plan all along, because he's like that. He'll only tell me half the agenda. The plan, though, that was told to me is that we were going to stay a couple weeks and then go back and live with that family that he just moved us into. But in hindsight, he runs a landscaping business, and we left in October or early November. When did we leave? And then went to Missouri. Like, where was I for Halloween that year? That's what I can't place. Oh yeah. I was in Mexico, but we didn't go to the cemeteries and celebrate. But there was like parades, and they made these big shrouds and stuff. So yeah, I spent Halloween there. So October is when we made it there. And so he probably always planned to stay the winter there, and he just didn't tell me because he didn't want me to freak out. And eventually, we'll get to it. But so we get to my aunt's house, and mind you, all of her sons have come to the United States, and I've met them through Francisco. I got Martin, Alfonso, who was closer in my age. So we were really close when I was growing up, and I would go and visit Francisco in Baltimore. And sorry, yeah, you got this camera on me. I hardly ever make eye contact with it. I'm always just kind of talking off in the distance. I'm sorry. I'll try to do a better job with that, but I guess that's what this is, video podcast. And now I'm sitting all crooked too, but yeah, me and Alfonso have always been pretty close, and thick as thieves. When we were down there, we would get drunk and go and eat gringa tacos, which were so fucking good. Oh, I'll get into that in a second. It's tacos al pastor, basically, but they hit different after a night of tequila in Acapulco, I'll tell you that. And so they have a decent place, but it's within it's called the 20 November. 20 Novembre. It's been so long since I said it. Novembre. It's hard for me to say now. 20 Novembre. The 20th of November is their neighborhood. And the neighborhoods are serious there. And it's like you cross the road and you go to this other neighborhood and you're not from there, you're going to get fucking stabbed. And it was something about like that was the date that particular area was established, but it was way high up on the mountain. So it's like the mountains surround this bay of the ocean, and every day we would drive down the mountain and go hang out on the beach. But Francisco came from, the poorer area, and the higher up on the mountain, the more grade and steepness you have to walk every day down to your particular little markets and stuff like that. It's like you're poor if that's where you're at. It's less desirable. And it's like that here too, except the mountains can be a different story here. But you get what I'm saying. It's a poor neighborhood. But they built it up really nicely because they had worked a good part of their life in the United States, a lot of times with Francisco or living with Francisco, and they'd be supporting their family back in Mexico and building their own houses. And so my aunt's house, where we stayed at, was fairly nice compared to other places that I would visit during my time there. And I had my own bed, shared a room with Francisco with 2 beds in it, and they'd let me come in any time of the night and fucking pass out in it. I couldn't be more thankful for that. So we get there, and we walk up the stairs, and we're like, fresh from this traumatic experience. And so the first thing on our mind to say is like, hey, yeah, we're happy to be here, but we got to go tell Rafa's family, like, he's not going to make it. And I remember their place. It's awesome. They have this big cement face, and you walk up the cement stairs and you round it, and they have this like little upper cement patio area that overlooks the street that walks down to the market. It's probably like a 1/4-mile walk down the mountain, but then there's shanty houses all the way along the road and different little corner shops. And if you've ever been to Mexico in the real neighborhoods, that's how it's like. And it's like not a developed road. It's like half brick, half cement, some dirt here. You cut over this little thing to walk onto this thing to continue on this path. Now, some of it may be super undeveloped. The higher you go up, the more the story is like that. But it was really neat to live there in that for 3 months. And so I'm walking up, and we're walking up the stairs, and we round it, and they're all anticipating us to be there that day, and they're all there waiting for us. And there's Rafa. And he's there telling them the story that we had just went through. Well, we were just getting ready to tell him, because they told him that they were going to go and find us and kill us. So what they did with him was they went and they got him lost, is what he said, got him all turned around, robbed him from everything that he had, all his money. They did find his money because he had he was starting a home. He was going to go live with his parents, but all the family, builds off each other and stays close together. And it's like my aunt Hant's house was this level, but Martin and his family had a house the level right above. So you just take some stairs up, and then you have Martin's whole household. And then right up the street, you had Fernando and his family, and like down the way was Luis and his wife's place, or maybe that was actually a drive. But anyway, you stay close if you can, and we're like elated and so relieved. The dark cloud is just bursted with sunlight, and the trip is saved, and we all made it, and they told him they robbed him, got him lost, but let him go because they didn't want the death on their hands, and they started to get scared, thinking that they were gonna, which they were. We did, they were being pursued later that day. I don't know if they ever got caught. We never heard. But I told you what would happen if they did. YK, but who cares? Rafa was okay. But they told him, hey, we're going to go find your friends and we're going to kill them. So go tell their family, or I can't even remember. But either way, we were just all so fucking happy. So we had made it. And yeah, I have a lot of Acapulco stories now, I guess I can tell. But I'll wait. I think I'm going to wrap it up. That's a good place to end 100. The autism in me makes me want to go till 2 hours, like a 2 hour, I'll make that clean break. But no, that's where the story ended on the way. That's the story. That is the story. But there's more to Acapulco. But I don't know. I always feel like I got to say, save it. It's like, well, I was sitting on that story for so long. I don't know why I have to, but as my memory's going, I feel like I could just keep going and going, but it's Friday afternoon. I got to spend it with my family. I'm going to have to dick around with this video forever. That's the type of shit I'm thinking about, but yeah, what a happy ending. Instead of 3 months, or it's 2 weeks, I spent 3 months down there. I would eventually get homesick right before Christmas and want to get home, which I did. Burns and Pat picked me up from the airport, and I ended up moving in with them. I never left. I was the guy on the couch, and I never left. Started paying rent. At the end of it, I was signing over my check to Burns because I was barely making my share. I'll save that story for another day, how the links broke up. Probably already told it before. Francisco would come to visit us one time, and Pat and Burns got into a fucking fist fight that night, and we got him in such a weed coma. He just woke up for a second, saw the fight, and he was just like, silly boys, and went back to sleep. Oh, but yeah, Francisco's my dog. That's why I named Rogan after him. It's his middle name. He's a father figure to me. Like I said, I have a deep respect for him. But, I've known him since I was a baby. He claims that the doctors he was there when I was born, put me on his chest, like they do skin to skin. He claims they did that. My mom was like, has no recollection of it. But women go through a lot during birth. But Francisco's known to tell a tall tale, so my mom chalks it up to that. But I believe him because I have that connection to him. And if not, then like very young, just talking day one, I recognize his scent and his heartbeat because he did hold me as a brand new person. He was with my grandmother. He took my mom to all of her doctor appointments. He was my mom's stepdad at the time. And then so throughout my adolescence, I leaned on him to be my grandpa, and he never shied away from it. And it continued on into my adulthood when I needed his help. I haven't needed his help for a good, 10, 12, 13 years or something like that. It's good, but you just never know. He wanted me to take over the business last time I lived with him. He wanted to teach me everything he knew about landscaping and build a business with me and have me take over. I just didn't want that life and that. Something kept calling me back to Missouri, and it was this empire that I'm building. Now I know that. At the time, I was a very directionless young man, but luckily I had a good example on what a man is. And anytime I did meet somebody like that, I could soak up information or just demeanor and all sorts of things that I missed out on. I tried to, but he's A1. And it was so much fun down there. Like, oh, beautiful women. Beautiful women. Don't have any kids. They would have came to my aunt's house by now and said, I have your kid. I won't get into all that. But we went to the beach every day, ate fresh fish out of the ocean for lunch every day if we wanted it. If not, it was some bomb Mexican food, and I was trying different things all the time. Anytime he had the opportunity to show me something different, I would. The best thing I ate was the gringa tacos with Alfonso. Late drunken nights, we would just listen to music and dance and walk around in a line and just take shots of 100 años tequila, 100 years tequila, until we were just all blacked out. And then me and Alfonso would stumble down to the market and he would spend money he didn't have on all you could eat fucking al pastor tacos and little mini tortillas where they shaved it right off the big kebab looking thing, and some fresh pineapple to top it off, and the best salsas you could ever make. And you'd eat those until you couldn't eat another bite. That's my favorite food on earth. But I haven't quite, you can get similar tacos here in America, but it's never been quite like what I had there. But then all the food I had there was good. Had really interesting cow cartilage soup, like the cartilage from the knee of the cow, they told me. That was one of the interesting dishes that I had. I tried turtle eggs. That was the grossest food that I had. This one vendor came by when we were visiting one of his cousins one day, and he had a basket of fresh turtle eggs, and we bought a dozen of them, or maybe more. And what you do is you peel a hole in the turtle egg, or this is how you eat it Mexican style, and you squirt it with some lime and some hot sauce in that hole, and then you take it and you go and you slurp up the inside into your mouth. And I did that one time. Worst fucking thing I've ever had in my mouth. Pause. So disgusting. But it's a machismo thing for them. They're like, they're so heavy in vitamins and minerals that the more you eat, if you can handle a lot of them, you're tough. Francisco ate like fucking 10 of them. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he cleaned up what everybody didn't want to eat. And he was a delicacy for him. So gross. But yeah, great fucking food. Party. Every Thursday was Pozole Thursday. We would go out to these different clubs and eat pozole, but then drink beers and dance, because that's just what you do on Thursdays. And I would swim in the ocean every day. My skin was never felt better. I got in great shape from walking up and down the mountain every day to the market. I would go down to the market in the morning and get a fresh juice. My favorite was called manacuya, which was like a hybrid. What would I used to say? It was like an orange and a pineapple or something. Now I can't quite remember what I would compare it to. It's been too long since I've tasted it. But then they had all of the fresh juices, the frescos, the Jamaica, the best horchata you've ever had. But I grew to like the manacuya, and you could get hot cake, pancakes, basically, these really fluffy, rich pancakes. But we would go down there on Sundays for barbacoa. They do the goat and it's like Mexican barbecue is what Francisco calls it, but it's a different kind of spicy sauce. Delicious. I'm going to sync up the video. My autistic ass is going to go to 2 hours just because I owe it to you guys, at the very least. God, I hope this works too. I was just thinking about how am I going to sync all of these together. Oh, might not come out tonight, folks. This is Friday. May be a Friday into Saturday project. We'll see. We'll see how smooth it goes. It's going to be a heavy file because 4K should look a little bit better, more frames per second. And we'll see. Maybe I messed up doing that. But yeah, where was I exactly? I don't quite remember. Damn it. What was I saying? Talking about the food, the turtle eggs. Where did I get to? We were visiting his family. I swimming. I remember, and all the while, I was with Olivia's mom. Like when I moved out there, we had maintained a long distance relationship, and I guess I was trying to go out there to earn money to come back and then make my way. That was like the ultimate plan or something. But we were together, but kind of not at the same time because I stopped in Missouri and saw her before we left, when I went to go visit my mom, and then we took off to Kansas the next day. But we were fully on then. But then the week drive passed, I got there, and then it went a couple weeks. I think I called once, got her on the phone. But before you knew it, like, we weren't talking anymore. And I was preoccupied, living life to the fullest down in Acapulco. 19. And I remember one sad day at the beach, getting the call and her basically breaking up with me or just telling me like, bro, what are you talking about? We haven't fucking talked for however long. Good riddance. But we were always on again, off again. So I was like, well, we're off again for now. That's what I always would think. And so yeah, I was free down in Mexico for like the latter half. And it just bummed me out because I went to the payphone off the beach, walked to it, and I had to walk back, and just sit in the circle of guys that would bullshit. We would hang out with and shout out to him, and our RIP actually, Arturo would sell, he would rent umbrellas on the beach, on a certain patch of the beach, and that's how he made a living, or an umbrella rental company. But then he would also take care of people in other capacities if they wanted, like Coco Locos. He would make them fresh coconut drinks. He would bring other things to sell tourists. Tourist-based economy there in Acapulco. He also employed or at least worked closely with a couple other guys. Be Terrible, like it sounds like Be Terrible. Be Terrible was his name. And what was the other guy? The other guy had a more Americanized name, but either way, like the one guy was like a gopher, and Be Terrible had like a jet ski. That's what he had. He had a jet ski that he would rent out to folks. But those three would be at the beach every day. Arturo's wife and child would be there as well. And then me and Francisco would show up. Then Francisco also had another friend. Like we saw Rafa maybe one or two other times in that 3 months when I was down there. But he had this other friend that moved from the States shortly after we got there. Gosh, what was his name too? Francisco would know. Salvatore or something like that. And he ate with us every day, or when he was, not every day, but I saw him quite often. And then also, some days we would have Goiti there with us. And Goiti was Francisco's taxi driver. Francisco owned a Volkswagen, which every taxi in Mexico is a Volkswagen. And that's how you identify them. But the number one car in Mexico is a Volkswagen. They fucking love them. And that's like the number one, that was at the time. I think they do really, or at least around like the mountains and stuff, because I think with no water cooled, whatever it is, engine, is that what I'm car dumb, that they don't overheat and they do really good. But they're all over Mexico, according to Francisco. Anyway, all right now, his taxi. And so he'd employ this guy, and the guy would kick him off, so much a month to rent the taxi and then to work for him based on his fares. But he was also a master joint roller. So, and any story I would tell you with Mexico would begin with Gordy was rolling a joint, we were smoking on one, and I was breaking some more up so Goity could roll it. I mean, we smoked like fucking 20 to 45 joints a day. Like no exaggeration there. And it was just, you would get brick weed before it was bricked up. And like this, and there was no way, no scale. We would get it wrapped up from the hamburger stand guy most of the time in newspaper, daily. We picked up from a couple other spots. One time from like a shady cartel spot that we had to be radioed in. That's because the hamburger guy was dry for a little time period. But we stayed in weed. And I stayed in beer too. I mean, his family, his aunt called me a borracho because I was such an alcoholic the entire time I was down there. I was always drinking. I was on vacation, 3-month vacation, though. It probably seemed pretty bad. I probably painted a pretty bad picture at some points because I was always out front of their house, and nobody else in the household that we stayed with, that might have been another 10 or 12 people if you consider Martine's family above us too, smoked weed aside from me and Francisco. So anytime they would come to the ledge and see over and down to the street, they would see us standing in our little spot, smoking and hanging out, listening to fucking Bob Marley, because we had a few Bob Marley CDs too we listened to on repeat. But I mean, they didn't judge us like too hard. They just, weren't into that. But here I was fucking drinking every day and just smoking around the clock. I'm sure there's like fucking worthless American, Jesus. And yeah, I remember there was one night I went out with Martine's son, his junior. I went out with him and his friends a few different times. We went to a concert together too. I saw the El Tigres del Norte, which is a huge band there. And it was actually, there was 4 bands that night. It was this huge concert that I went to. They even wrote down their address just in case I became lost and I could give that to a taxi driver to get back. And I remember just being in this huge crowd and getting drunk, carrying on, almost getting in trouble for peeing in the wrong spot because the line to the bathroom was so long and my tiny bladder, I knew I wasn't going to make it. And I went and I was peeing in the wrong spot, and one of the security guards that kind of looked like a cop rolled up on me, but then I just pulled it up and then ducked and got back into the sea of humans to where I just hoped he didn't fucking find me. And he didn't. Made it back to because every time I had to go pee too, it was like I could easily get lost from them, and I can't fucking speak the language, so I'm going to get back to them. But a separate night, we were all hanging out, we were playing indoor soccer, and I remember all of them like slapping my belly and being like hamburguesas, talking about how I'm a fat American, and they were all trim because they eat tacos, is what they said. Mexican tacos, but it was life-changing. And at the time, and I haven't been back since. It was not safe then, and it hasn't got any safer. I mean, as recently as a few weeks ago when that big cartel member was killed by the police and half of Mexico was on fire, the prison from my aunt's house, I call her my aunt, but we're not blood related. Francisco's my mom's stepdad, or was at some point. Him and my grandma were married, I think, a couple different times. Or got married, divorced, and then got back together, and then, never got... I don't know exactly, but... And they could see the prison was on fire from their house. So the inmates had taken over the asylum. And, it was just... It's dangerous. There was people that I knew that came back to the States, and next time I talked to Francisco, you'd be like, remember that taxi driver's older brother? Yeah, he got killed by them. There'd just be like so many people that are no longer there that I met for a brief second because it's just so dangerous there. But he kept me pretty insulated from that. I told you guys how good of a protector he is during this podcast, but we had a good time. I do remember the Day of the Dead, and all the arrangements that they made. And then we moved on to the next big holiday was the 20th of November. The whole neighborhood celebrated. But we were down by the market during the celebration, and there was something that happened that the whole crowd started running. And I remember like pushing Francisco this certain way and like getting him and running faster and clearing people out of our way so we could fucking get the fuck out of there. And then we realized it was like a false alarm. Must have been fireworks or something like that. But that's how it was down there. It's like at any moment things could pop off. Here you are staring at paradise. You're at the foot of it. You know, this beautiful beachfront part of the earth. But it's just littered with poverty and desperate people. I remember another thing I didn't tell you about when we spent that day at the Mexican FBI in Toluca. When they were transporting us to that hotel, or at some point we were somewhere walking with them, and they had this inmate who they had just got off the street, this criminal who they had just apprehended, who was walking up. They were just telling us because we were there. You know, Francisco's probably was like, you know, what was that guy's story that they just escorted him by? And you could see him. He was all roughed up. His face was all bloody from getting beat up, presumably by the cops. And he even had shit stained on his drawers, because I've never said drawers either. Because they beat the shit out of him. And they were transporting him to jail then. And they did this, and I think they just were maybe even justifying his appearance as they walked him by us, because they said that he was walking up to citizens and robbing them at gunpoint, and they apprehended him. And I just didn't share that earlier. That was a little thing that flashed in my mind there. I don't know what about exactly I was talking about. Just, I don't know. The vibe, it was always there, I guess, that the threat. But I didn't experience anything more. You know, the trauma I told you guys about happened 20 November. We partied. I mean, we partied a lot and drank a lot. I told you that every Thursday was a party. Sorry, nose itches. And then Thanksgiving, they had a turkey that they kept for like a whole month and fed, that was on that ledge. And every time we were smoking, anytime you'd make like a sudden move or loud clap or bang or something, it would gobble. It would startle it. So we would do that for fun. And people that would walk by, that were walking down to the market or stuff, they would do it too. Get our guajolote going. But they raised a turkey for a month, fattened it up, and then made the best fucking turkey mole for Thanksgiving that year. And that will always be a really memorable Thanksgiving. But before I knew it, I was getting pretty homesick. And just like how you see demonstrated through TV or whatever, it's like paradise. It wears its, I don't know, you start to take it for granted. You get sick of the beach even, you know? YK. I wanted to go back to cold-ass Missouri in the middle of winter because I missed everybody. I missed America. I missed talking. You can see how fucking much I talk. I was very silent for 3 months, talking only to Francisco here and there, or maybe having a translation if he needed to. I ended up picking up a lot of Spanish. I can understand a lot of it. I wish I would have worked harder on speaking it while I was down there, not being so shy when it comes to that, but I can understand a hell of a lot of it because I spent 3 months immersed in it and listening 10 to 1 when it comes to speaking. But it was a fucking trip. Now you guys know all about it. I pleaded with Francisco to get me back home. Can't even remember how it came to a head, really. I mean, there was never really any friction between us ever. And like I said, I have such a deep respect for him that I would always just start to toe any line with him, and I would follow him to the end of the earth and always be on my best behavior, or at least try to be. You know, I'm sure I've embarrassed myself. I have embarrassed myself in front of him several times, but I always try my best with him. But eventually he knew I was ready to go home, and he scraped up what he could, because he even started to pick up taxi shifts, because here he was taking care of 2 people this time, taking care of my fucking weed and alcohol habit, and making sure I'm having a good time, and for several months, and paying for this and that. But he scraped the money up together to buy me a plane ticket and got me home right before Christmas. And Burns and Pat picked me up from the airport. And you know, that's really where my early adulthood story in Missouri began again. And I'll leave you there, because that's right. You hear it. Come back.